Last week, in the month of Earth, we focused mostly on the body, and it was important. The body is our first home, our first reality, and the body is the place where the practice begins. I think that's very important because spirituality can easily become very abstract if we forget about the body. We can speak about consciousness, peace, energy, transformation, wisdom, but if we are not able to feel our own feet on the ground, if we cannot listen to our breathing, if we are constantly fighting against the body, then something very basic is missing. So that's why we began with the body. But this week, I would like to expand this circle a little bit, because Earth is not only the body. Earth is also the environment that holds the body. The ground beneath us, the air around us, the rooms that we live in, the garden, the street, the kitchen, the forest, all the paths, the food that becomes ourselves, the water that we drink, the sounds that we hear every day, the light that enters our eyes, the animals, the plants, the people, the habits, and the rhythms that surround us. Very often, when we say the environment, we think about something outside of us, maybe something political or ecological, or it's just like something big and far away that we don't really care about. And of course, it can enter those topics, but environment in its essence is extremely intimate. It's not only the planet as something abstract and far away, it's the exact world that your body is living inside right now in this moment. Your body is not separate from its environment. It responds all the time. It responds to the noise, it responds to the light, to fresh air, or to air that is a bit heavy. It responds to beauty or to disorder, to safety, to tension, to kindness, to conflict, to the weather, to the rhythm, to the space, to clutter, to silence, anything. Sometimes we think that we are simply in a bad mood, but maybe the body has been living all day in noise, tension, artificial light, rushed movement, and no contact with anything alive. Sometimes we think we are weak or unspiritual because we cannot become calm by force, but maybe the nervous system is responding very intelligently to an environment that is not supporting us. This is why earth practice is not only about what happens on the yoga mat, it's also about how we live. What kind of space do we create around the body? What do we allow into our senses? What do we consume? What do we care for? What do we neglect? What kind of atmosphere do we create in our homes, in our gardens, in our relationships, in our communities? Because the body does not practice in isolation. The body practices inside a world. And this brings us back very naturally to ahimsa. As we already heard, it's often translated as non-violence. And many times we think of it in the very obvious ways: not hurting others, not being cruel, not causing unnecessary harm. But ahimsa is much deeper than simply not attacking someone. It asks us to become more sensitive, more awake to the ways that harm may happen. And not only dramatic harm or big harm, also subtle harm. The way we speak to ourselves, the way we push the body past its limits, the way we treat animals, plants, food, water, or land, the way we create peace or tension in a room, the way we consume without noticing, the way we step over life because we are too busy to feel it. Earth makes ahimsa very, very practical because it asks, can I move through the world with less aggression? Can I treat the earth as something alive, not only as a background for my human problems? Can I notice what I take? Can I notice what I waste? Can I notice what I've stopped feeling because it became just normal? And very important, this is not about guilt. I think that guilt is not very useful spiritually or in any other way. Guilt usually makes us smaller, heavier, more defensive, more paralyzed. Earth practice is not about becoming perfectly pure and never making mistakes. It's about becoming more honest, more sensitive, and more willing to care, more rooted in goodness. And that brings us to satya, that we also saw before, truthfulness. To practice satya with the earth, we have to tell the truth about something very, very basic. We are not separate. We are not floating minds using the planet as decoration. We are bodies inside a living system. What happens to the soil is not separate from us. What happens to water is not separate from us. What happens to animals, plants, forests, food, air, climate, and community is not separate from us. It enters the body, it enters the nervous system, it enters our future. Satya asks us to look clearly, not with panic or with self-hatred, not with the fantasy that one person can fix everything alone, but clearly. How does my life affect the world around me? Is it more positive or more negative? How does the world around me affect my body, my mind, my practice, my capacity to be present? Is it supporting me? Is it an obstacle? This honestly can be uncomfortable, but it can also be very freeing. Because when we stop pretending that we are separate, practice becomes much larger than a private self improvement project. Because yoga is not something that we do only to make ourselves calmer or stronger or healthier or more flexible. It should also become a way of entering into a better relationship with life itself. And here I think we can also speak about karma yoga. Karma yoga is one of the paths of yoga, and it's often described as the yoga of action, the yoga of work, of service, of daily life. Not the action that we do for the ego or for a reward or because we want to look good or we want to look spiritual. It's the action that we offer with attention, humility, and care. And this is deeply connected to the earth because the earth is extremely practical. Earth asks us, what do you actually do? How do you act? How do you clean? How do you cook? How do you plant, repair, feed, build, organize, help? How do you tend? How do you serve? It's easy to speak beautifully about love for nature, love for the planet, love for everyone. But Karma Yoga asks, did you water the plant? Did you feed the animal? Did you pick up the rubbish? Did you make the space more peaceful than it was before? Did you do the simple task in front of you with presence? Did you take care of the place that is caring for you? This is not glamorous. And maybe that is why it's so important. A lot of spiritual practice can become very concerned with special experiences, like deep meditations, big insights, strong emotion, beautiful states or journeys, and important spiritual language. But earth brings us back to ordinary. The floor that needs sweeping, the body that needs food, the dog needs water, the garden needs attention, the room needs air, the dishes need washing, and the neighbor may need help. The plant on the windowsill is either alive because someone remembered it, or it's dying because no one did. Karma Yoga says this too is practice. Not only the moment when we sit with closed eyes, not only the moment when we feel peaceful or we are doing asanas, also the moment when we do the work that needs to be done, without turning it into something dramatic, without needing applause or reward, and without separating service from spirituality and from yoga. When we care for our environment, we are not doing something separate from yoga. We are practicing relationship, we are practicing responsibility, we are practicing humility, we are practicing ahimsa through action. And we are practicing satya by admitting that our lives are woven into the lives of others. That is where goodness begins, with simple, practical actions of love. There is also another principle that belongs here: saucha, cleanliness, purity, or clarity. But I want to be careful with this word, because purity can be very easily misunderstood as something religious or something that leads to moral superiority, something that can make us a bit obsessive or rigid. I don't mean purity like everything has to be perfect, white, sterile, and controlled. That's not earth. That is anxiety. Saucha in this context should mean care. A clean space, little more fresh air, a calm corner, a body that is washed and respected, a kitchen that is treated with attention, a garden that is tended, less clutter where possible, less poison where possible, and a little more beauty everywhere where it's possible. Not perfection, but care, goodness. Because spaces around us affect the spaces inside us. And sometimes cleaning one small area is not just a household task. Sometimes it's a nervous system practice. Sometimes watering a plant is not just watering a plant, it's remembering relationships. Sometimes preparing food with attention is not just cooking, it's participating in the transformation of earth into body. Sometimes feeding an animal, or composting, or sweeping, or opening a window, or putting one object back in its place can be a form of returning to life. This is spirituality in a grounded earth level. It's not above life, it's inside life. It's not escaping the ordinary, it's bringing attention back into the ordinary. And then there is another principle called aparigraha, non-grasping, non-attachment, which also belongs to this reflection. Because environment is also shaped by what we take. How much we need, how much we hold, how much we accumulate, how much we consume because we are trying to feel something that cannot be filled by objects. Aparigraha does not mean that we cannot enjoy beauty or comfort or clothing or tools, books, homes, or other objects. It means that we begin to notice the difference between what we are using and what we are grasping, between receiving something and hoarding stuff, between enjoying life and trying to possess it. Earth gives very generously, but not endlessly. And when we practice non grasping, we begin to live with a little more lightness. Not empty, not deprived, not ashamed of having needs, just less possessed by possession itself. And a little more able to ask, what is enough? What supports life? What creates heaviness? What am I keeping, buying, consuming, or carrying because I don't want to feel something else? These questions are not always comfortable, but they are very much related to Earth, because Earth is honest. Earth does not care about spiritual image. Earth asks us to look at the actual life, the actual room, the actual garden, the actual body, the actual habits, the actual relationships between what we say we value and what we do every day to honor that. And again, this is not to create guilt, it's to create contact. Because when we make contact with reality, even imperfectly, something becomes possible. We can change. A room can change, a rhythm can change, a habit can change, a relationship can change. A small part of the environment can become more alive because we touched it with attention, and that matters. A forest teaches patience, a garden teaches responsibility, a dry landscape teaches respect for water, an animal teaches presence. Even a messy room can teach us what we have been avoiding, and a peaceful corner teaches the nervous system that it's allowed to be calm. The environment is not passive, it teaches us all the time. So, this week, the earth practice is about a relationship with the world around us. Not only how do I feel inside my body, but also what kind of world is my body living in? What kind of environment am I creating? What am I receiving from earth? And even more importantly, what am I giving back? We do not need to answer these questions perfectly. We begin simply, but we do have to start. Open a window, touch a tree, water something living, clean one small space, prepare the next meal with more attention, walk without headphones for a few minutes, pick up just one piece of trash. Let your eyes rest on something green. Notice the air, the light, the ground. Notice whether the space around you helps you breathe or makes you contract. And choose one small action, not a grand heroic action, just a small karma yoga action. Something done with care, with awareness, without needing reward. Something that makes the world immediately around you a little more alive, a little more peaceful, a little more honest, a little less harmed. Earth practice is the art of remembering that we are not separate from life. We are held by it, fed by it, shaped by it, and responsible to it. And goodness begins here, not as a grand idea, but as the way we touch the world immediately around us. The way we step, the way we clean, the way we feed, the way we plant, the way we listen, the way we care, and especially the way we act when nobody is watching. This is the practice of earth in the environment, and this too is part of yoga.